Hello there. How on earth can this be? Boris Johnson has been voted the most competent Prime Minister of 2022? Now, if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe, click the little bell, select all, and then like and comment below. So what's this? A poll saying that Boris Johnson is considered as the most competent Prime Minister of 2022. Yes, peoplepolling.org included the questions about this in their Westminster voting intentions poll for this week, given that this is an unusual year for the number of Prime Ministers, Secretaries of State and other ministers that we've managed to churn through in 2022. And the two questions were, who do you think were the least and the most competent PMs this year? On the question of the least competent, that was won hands down by Liz Truss getting 63% of the vote. Then came Boris Johnson with 14% and then Rishi Sunak with 6%. However, when the question was reversed into who was the most competent PM, the answer did not reflect the answers to who they thought was the least competent. Because Boris won this one with 32%, with Rishi in second place on 29%, and poor old Liz was down in the weeds on 3%. I mean, you'd think that if Rishi was at the bottom of the least competent, he'd also be at the top of the most competent. Now, in the most competent vote, Rishi and Liz saw their support quite equal across age, gender and social categories. But Boris was favoured more by men and those over the age of 50. Make of that what you will. Anyway, Liz Truss can bask in the glory of at least having managed to get over the 50% mark in one of the polls, a feat neither of the other two can match. And as to the Westminster voting intentions, it pretty much mirrors what others are saying. It has Labour ahead on 46%, more than twice the Tory poll, and up 1% on last week. Next comes the Tories on 22%, down 2 on last week. Then the Lib Dems and Reform UK both on 8%, and both of them up 1% on the previous week. Then the Greens on 6%, the SNP on 5%, other parties on 3%, and Plaid on 1%. Now, I know it was only one pollster from the many that are out there, but that bit about Boris being the most competent PM in 2022 will have the lefties, the woke and the anti-Brexit mobs all sputtering their soy lattes all over their keyboards. Professor Matt Goodwin, who ran the poll, said, "The Boris brand may be damaged, but he remains voters' top choice when they are asked which of the three Prime Ministers they preferred. This is especially true among Conservative voters who clearly still have a soft spot for Johnson." Yes, but they were all let down by their MPs, weren't they? Now, for those that think that the Gender Recognition Reform Bill was isolated to Scotland, you'd better think again, because Spanish lawmakers have just voted in similar vein, with DW.com saying, Spain's Parliament on Thursday passed a bill that allows anyone 16 and over to change the gender on their ID card without the need for psychological or medical evaluation. Sound familiar? The next step in Spain is to get it through their Senate, then it's law. But the question is, what happens when people travel out of Spain into the rest of the EU with one of these self-certifications? What will their legal status be in Viktor Orban's Hungary, for example? Will Spain end up effectively writing gender-based laws for the entire EU, much as Nicola Sturgeon is attempting in the UK, something I talked about in this morning's video? And if this expands into the EU, the pressure will come on the UK to comply. Possibly one reason why the SNP has pushed this in Scotland, so as to force the issue. Now, before I get on to the next piece, Richard has something to say about something at the end. Not sure what he's referring to, though. Something I've talked about or not? Who knows? So Poland is now on track to having the largest and most robust land army in the European Union. The Polish army must be so powerful that it does not have to fight due to its strength alone, said the Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki in the face of a possible Russian threat. And a senior US Army official said that Poland had become their most important continental European partner. And Poland has upped its defence spending to 5%, with plans to double the size of its armed forces to 300,000 personnel. While we in the UK promise more defence expenditure, but always duck out and go for cuts in the end. Now, just recently, the Polish PM said he would rather see an EU based on homelands, not one based on a centralised superstate. Poles and Italians are fed up with the diktats of the European bureaucracy and want real democracy, he said. Well, good luck with that. Cameron tried back in 2015 and he got nowhere. And it's backfired on them. Now, I said at the start of these strikes that if the armed forces are drafted in, they will do the best job they possibly can, despite having leave cancelled and doing the jobs of higher paid workers. But now they have excelled themselves. Border Force went on strike, hoping to leave airport chaos in their wake, only to have the military step in and instantly make everything more efficient, says the Mail. Yes, travellers were reporting that their journeys through the passport system were quicker and better handled than normal, with the overall message being that airports have become much more efficient because Border Force are on strike. And all those predicted log jams never materialised, with one pilot reportedly telling his passengers that far from facing problems, everything was going more quickly than normal. And passengers have been saying on social media that the strikes have made things run much more smoothly, and that it was great to see lots of very efficient and helpful military personnel there. Now, this is not quite what the Border Force strikers were expecting. And if they get anywhere near the 10% pay rise they're demanding, they are going to have to work extremely hard to justify it if the military can just swan in and improve things in a few hours. And with the PCS Union General Secretary Mark Sorotwa saying that Border Force strikes could last 6 months, there will be many very delighted travellers out there. Talk about an own goal. Now over to Richard, who wants to talk to you about something.
Thank you, Jeff. Tell me, when you look at laws being passed that allow anyone to identify as basically anything they want to identify as, does it sit well with you? Now, I am sure some of you will fall into the so-called progressive camp, but as a free-thinking fellow, I might think differently. And yes, there are some of us free-thinking fellows still around. I am a fellow. I find it hard to understand how anyone can accept people having the ability to identify in legal terms as that which they are not, because aside from it being factually incorrect, it is open to manipulation. I am not, of course, speaking of anything to do with that which you think I am. I am actually speaking about something else. You see, I am a bit of a live and let live person, providing you live in a way that I deem fully acceptable. And I don't think anyone should tell anyone else what they are or what they are not, unless, of course, they are not that which they think or say they are, and then they are probably in need of a good bit of correcting for their own good. You see, I am not an eagle. If I were an eagle with beautiful wings that would allow me to soar high into the sky and jump off tall buildings, it's okay, because as an eagle, I would be able to fly off these tall buildings. However, if I, as a human being, start identifying as an eagle, you may want to keep me away from tall cliff tops, just in case my delusion makes me believe that I can fly. Yes. So I worry where this self-identifying as that which one is not will go. And I would like to reiterate that I am not talking about that which I am talking about, because this monologue bears no resemblance to that which it is. We, as a society, need to take a long, cold, hard look at where we are being driven by those that wish to manipulate our sense of self, family, community, and morality. I'm afraid many of you still believe in the system and our rulers, and those that legitimize the degradation of society and morality. I am sorry, it is a terrifying dream to wake up in. Anyway, back over to you, Jeff.
And finally, when subscribing, please don't forget to press that little bell and also select the all option, or you won't get any notifications when I publish a new video. And thank you all so much for taking the time to watch the show.